Hello and welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman. We begin in West Africa, where the House of Representatives on Tuesday, February 6, held the second edition of its sectoral debates and dialogue. Billed for the financial sector, it featured key stakeholders including the Minister of Finance, Minister of Budget and Planning, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. During his presentation, the CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso highlighted the efforts undertaken by the bank to address inflation and forex liquidity in the foreign exchange market. The stakeholders further stated that the current administration is taking bold steps to steer the Nigerian economy in the right direction. Nigeria's ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, has accused opposition parties of instigating mass protests across some major cities in the country to undermine the administration of President Bola Tinubu. On Monday, protesters, including women and youths, blocked major roads in Minna, the Niger State capital, to register their displeasure over the rising cost of living. The protesters said the rising cost of food items and poor government efforts to arrest the situation forced them to block major roads so that the government will hear their cry. A day after the Niger protests and a similar one in Kano State, the APC National Publicity Secretary Felix Morka said the demonstrations were devious and unpatriotic. The Federal High Court in Lagos, southwest of Nigeria, has struck out a 22.8 billion naira fraud charge against former Chief of Air Staff, retired Air Marshal Adeshola Amosu, and two other Air Force chiefs. Justice Chukwujeku Aneke set the military officers free while delivering rulings on their separate preliminary objections, challenging the court's jurisdiction to try them for the alleged crime. The court held that Amosu and his co-defendants, Air Vice Marshal Jacob Bola Adigun and Air Commodore Gbadebo Owodunni Olugbenga, could not be tried by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission because they were serving military officers at the time the alleged crime was committed. Amosu was appointed Chief of Air Staff on January 16, 2014, and he was removed from the post on July 13, 2015, 12 months before his arraignment in court. Now, staying in Nigeria, Abubakar Ahmed Sirika, the immediate younger brother of the former Minister of Aviation, Hadi Abubakar Sirika, has been arrested by operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. He was apprehended by the Anti-Graft Agency on Sunday, February 4, over investigation of the Aviation Ministry. While in office as minister, Sirika is accused of conspiracy, abuse of office, diversion of public funds, contract inflation, criminal breach of trust, and money laundering amounting to over 8 billion naira. Now, according to the commission, the sum is for 4 aviation contracts from the former minister to a company known as Engiria's Nigeria Limited, owned by his younger brother. Away from Nigeria, several people at the Senegalese capital of Dakar's Colobane market have expressed concern after lawmakers voted to delay this month's presidential election until December.
Chaque jour xeex ñoom bu ñu nekkee foofu war a def lu nga xam ne mooy jëri réew mi nekk fa di xeex ñun kañ la ñu avancé li métti na ba si kanam yàlla métti na.
Ah, bien sûr, parce que parmi eux, c'est pas tous qui sont mauvais, c'est pas tous qui sont corrompus ou bien des trucs comme ça. Et il y en a toujours des gens à qui on peut faire confiance, mais c'est juste que le niveau de corruption est un peu élevé par rapport à ce qu'on a vu hier à l'Assemblée nationale.
Non, wóolu ma leen de woon 100% wax dëgg yàlla élection yi boo xoolee moom li nga xam moo jiite réew mi bokk ci élection yi waru ko mën a toxal waroon na ko mën a bàyyi élection yi am ci jàmm dëkk bi am jàmm ndax booy ñu ngi yàq bare surtout ñu borom mode yi en général lu ci ëpp rek bu yàqu-yàqu amee rek ñu ne bu leen daw te ñun dañuy daal suñu doole.
Now we move to Kenya, where the leader of a starvation cult, Paul Ntenge Mackenzie, has appeared in a Kenyan court with other defendants in the coastal town of Malindi, charged with 191 counts of murder. Self-proclaimed Pastor Mackenzie, who has already been charged with terrorism, manslaughter, as well as child torture and cruelty, is alleged to have incited hundreds of his acolytes to starve to death in order to meet Jesus.
Until after the ruling on the PO, highlighting of submissions on the 7th of March, 2024.
And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. I'm Darshan Usman. Now it's back to Osaoge and Joe.
Thank you, Darshan. To be honest, I'm not even sure where to start from. Paul and Tenje, of course, in Kenya, that's a different story entirely. But here in Nigeria, the story on Hadi Sirika, where, of course, was one person that a lot of people had said should be investigated. If you remember when he claimed to have bought, was it 10 or 12 firefighting trucks for about 12 billion naira. And it makes me remember Which Way Nigeria from Monday when I said that corruption in Nigeria is not just diverting funds from government accounts to private accounts. It is also using your brothers and your girlfriends and wives and boyfriends to carry out contracts and giving them contracts with government money where billions and billions of naira are diverted from government coffers. And listen, if we ever get to a place where we really do a forensic analysis of the money that has been diverted or stolen from Nigeria, I don't think that we would be able to stomach the figures that we would see or that would be exposed. So it's very interesting. And then, of course, the other story that you mentioned, I can't remember it now.
Yeah,
I hope I remember.
I mean,
Which one? The one about the protests, where they're saying it's conniving and.
No, not even that one.
Okay.
No, let me I probably would remember it.
You did talk about the Hadi Sirika challenge, which is stolen funds. Kind of like makes animals who stole money earlier in the day look very petty or little compared to what they've taken. But you also did mention the story of the portrait. We talked about the portrait, I beg your pardon, of the president. I don't know if you've seen that picture.
That one, that's the one that we need to.
We'll talk about that.
It's a TV series. But I just remember
the army,
the Air Force officers that were charged with 28 or 24 billion naira, and just listening to that story and hearing that the judge said that the EFCC can't charge them to court because they were serving military officers at the time that the crime allegedly took place. That is not a country that wants to fight corruption, and that's very, very easy to tell. Nigeria is not a country that is fighting corruption or is trying to fight corruption. No matter how much we deceive ourselves, no matter how many new EFCC chairmen we bring in week out, we're not ready as a country to fight corruption.
Selective amnesia.
Well, at least, Osaoge, unlike the previous administration, this administration hasn't come out to outrightly say that, they want to fight corruption. The Buhari administration back then, was, at the forefront of anti-corruption. And even though that didn't stop anything, in this case, I really can't say, because it's been less than 12 months already since they've been in office. And we've already seen so many corruption allegations, on this administration, already. So what can be said about that? I
mean, sorry to butt in very quickly. What have we made out of the Better Edu story and the Minister of Interior, Tunjojo's story? Till date, investigations were to be carried out by the EFCC. And just when they were about to begin, the president now convened a group of persons and said they were to look into the situation. So we'll have two different, in quotes, factions or body to look into a case that is so obvious and so clear. And guess what? Nigerians will move on. Yeah, they will just move on. It's been how many months? It's been about roughly 2 months.
Nobody's
counting.
Really saying anything about it.
Nothing has been said.
It's gradually dying down. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, good to see you, Darshan. We'll see you again at 9 a.m. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for looking Darshan, by the way.
Thank you.
All right. It's still Breakfast Central on News Central. So this morning, we do have a lot to talk about. And one of the things that we bring to you at this time is finding out where Nigeria is going. You will recall the song in 1984, of course, by the late Reverend Sonny Okosu, where he asked so many questions. After the break, we'll get to find out what this week looks like.
Welcome again to Breakfast Central. The nation's electoral body, INEC, just concluded what was meant to be by-elections in some states across Nigeria. It's, of course, ended not very different from what we all expected. In fact, if anyone expected anything different, they must really be in dreamland. Elections were cancelled in Enugu, in Akwa Ibom, and in Kano states due to, of course, according to INEC, disruptions, irregularities, and, listen, abduction of election officials. You hear those type of things only in Nigeria. Again, disruptions, irregularities, and abduction of election officials. Well, once again, if you expected any different, you need to maybe go kneel down in the corner of your bedroom because, of course, it's Nigeria. These type of incidents have been very normal in almost every single election cycle in Nigeria. Absolutely nothing changes. No matter the amount of adjustments to the electoral laws, it's the same cycle on repeat. Now, the problem is not a failure of electoral reforms, but it's something that we seem to ignore when we wish INEC will deliver every single time there's elections. We call on INEC, we call on Festus Okoye or whoever the INEC chairman is every single time, and we make them promise to deliver. But it seems like self-deceit. In a nation where dysfunctionality has become the norm, it is surprising that we place expectations on the electoral agency INEC to be different. INEC, like many others, is entangled in the same intricate web of inefficiency and bureaucracy that hampers progress. And those perennial issues plaguing Nigeria, corruption, inadequate infrastructure, lack of institutional capacity, lack of political will and leadership, it wouldn't exclude INEC from its spread and, of course, the spread of its cancer. INEC will, of course, be a victim of the same dysfunctionality. INEC is operating within the broader context of dysfunctionality. It is shackled by the same chains that bind other governmental entities. Nigeria is dealing with government agencies that can't provide the most basic services to citizens. The police has continuously been rated as one of the worst or most corrupt in the world. The Nigerian Customs Service, the EFCC, we just spoke about it, NAFDAC, we all know, has been very inefficient in carrying out its duties. PHCN and other electricity generating, transmission, or distribution agencies have been inefficient. Do I even bother talking about the NNPC? Is there any need mentioning the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, that is simply tasked with disaster management and response? The systemic failures transcend mere elections. They permeate every facet of public service, from erratic power supply to dilapidated infrastructure. The country's challenges are mirrored in the struggles of its institutions, and INEC cannot be seen to be different. Expecting INEC to function differently in isolation is akin to demanding a lone tree in the forest to flourish in not in the forest now, but a lone tree to flourish in a barren desert. It's not going to happen. Now, this shouldn't stop or kill the constant demand for better service delivery from governmental agencies. But it's to simply remind us that INEC can't be singled out and expected to deliver until we have a complete demand for a better Nigeria. The issues ingrained in Nigeria's governance ecosystem require a comprehensive overhaul. Every single item, every single one of them. And without addressing the root cause of dysfunctionality, any optimism for change in a single agency is akin to building castles on shifting sands. It's self-deceit. So Nigerians, let this morning be a reminder to demand more from your government. Now your president is back home. Remind him that it's time to be president. Demand accountability from your governors, from your local government chairman, from your permanent secretaries, from everybody. Demand better service from your MDAs. And most importantly, make that demand non-negotiable. Good morning, Nigerians.
Very insightful conversation there from Asage. Well, which way Nigeria? Well, still staying in Nigeria and talking about Nigeria, the Nigerian Senate has summoned the economic team of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu over Nigeria's poor economy, hunger, and depreciation in the value of Nigeria, especially in Naira. Recall that last Friday, the Senate invited the central bank governor, Olayemi Cardoso, but after he appeared before the House of Representatives members, the Senate shifted the invitation and asked that the entire President Tinubu's economic team appear on Friday, 9th of February.
Now, similarly, the federal government yesterday convened an emergency meeting to address the spate of protests in some parts of the country due to rising cost of food prices across the country. The meeting, which held yesterday at the State House Abuja, was presided over by the Chief of Staff to the President, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, and is coming on the heels of a protest by angry youths in Minna, the Niger State capital, and in Kano over the rising cost of living in the country.
Well, the crucial meeting, attended by members of the Special Presidential Committee on Emergency Food Intervention, was aimed at arresting the brewing crisis as a result of the soaring prices of food items and, of course, its attendant hardship on the citizenry. Well, this morning, we'll be joined by activists who actually one who has been championing good and quality leadership. Now, she is also the co-founder of #BringBackOurGirls movement, if you recall, and she refers to herself as an active Nigerian citizen. We do have with us Aisha Yusufu. Thank you so much, and we say ekaro or good morning. Thanks for being here. Okay, Aisha, well, just help us unmute your device so we could hear that exciting voice of yours.
Oh, thank you so much. I didn't know I was still muted. I would say Naibia Abe from Esako, my own tribe.
Correct.
Well done.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. All right, so it's Wednesday morning. We know what's going on currently in Nigeria. And as we speak to you this morning, I wouldn't hold back in going straight to my question so we can get this, this whole conversation on the road. How's it been like, especially as a Nigerian and as an activist who is indeed looking at the growth of the economy? And what have you to say concerning the current situation that we find ourselves?
So first of all, I would just give this to say that I'm not an economist, so I might not be speaking from an expert point of view. I probably be speaking like as a Nigerian and a businesswoman, a trader, who is being affected by the economy. But before I go on, I was listening to what was being said earlier, and the part that struck me was the part where it was said that if anyone expected anything different with the election, that means the person is living in a dreamland. I actually wrote this down, or you should go kneel down at the corner of your bedroom. Honestly, I expected different. For me, as a Nigerian, I will never succumb to a place where I say, this is Nigeria and criminality is supposed to happen. I will never succumb to a situation where I say, this is Nigeria, election should be a do or die affair, election should be about killing, about maiming, about abducting people. Because the moment we do that, then we give room for perpetrators to continue to do what they're doing. I refuse to believe that I'm not worthy as a Nigerian, I'm not worthy of a country that works for me. I refuse to believe that as a Nigeria, I'm not deserving of a country that works for me. I refuse to believe that as a Nigeria, I'm not deserving of good quality life. I refuse to believe that as a Nigeria, that what I'm supposed to do on this earth is just to survive and to just be surviving instead of living. I want different in Nigeria, and I believe Nigeria can be different. Nigeria has everything that is needed to be a great and amazing country, to be one of the top countries in the world. It's not about religion. It's not about ethnicity. It is not about gender or whatever. It's about human beings being able to live very well. Having said that is to say, we look at the economy today. I'm a businesswoman. I started my business in the year 2000. I used to go to Dubai to go and buy things in Dubai and sell in Nigeria. At the time that I was going, dollar was about, I think, 103 naira, the first trip that I made. By the time I was doing my second trip, 3 months later, dollar had gone to 113 naira. And by the time I was doing my third trip, it was around within a year, 120 naira. And this is where we are today. Dollar is around 1,004 something, 1,005. If you look at it, if you go to Dubai today, as of that time of Dubai, dirham was about to dollar was about 365, 366. 3.65, not 365, 3.65, 3.66 dirham. I'm sure if you go to Dubai today and still check, it will still be within that range, definitely less than 4 dirham to a dollar. That tells you everything. That tells you the difference. As a businessman, who this year will be my 24th year of doing business, I can categorically tell you that I've never had it this bad. I've had times, even during the last recession and everything, it's never been this bad. There was a time that I placed order for some goods. Before before the trailers came to my warehouse, some of the products, they had increased price more than 3 times. Today in our warehouses, you do not sell. By the time a customer is coming to buy something, you're calling the source to find out how much is it that they are selling this product. Otherwise, you will not be able, you will sell the product and not be able to replace the product. Today, you find situations like things that are supposed to be basic necessities in life, they are now, what do you call it now? They are now luxury. People can't afford to eat eggs. People can't afford to buy chicken. A lot of things that are supposed to be basic, they are now luxury. People are suffering. The disposable income is no longer available. It's very little, and sometimes not even available to a lot of people. And yet, we have governance. Governance is continuing as if it's business or as usual. I was one of those who supported the removal of fuel subsidy in 2012 when it was done under President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Even up to today, when subsidy was removed, I support subsidy removal. But now I see the point of a lot of people who were on the streets in 2012 where they said, if subsidy is removed, that it is the people in government that will continue with that corruption and looting and wastage of money, and that it is not the people that will benefit with it. A decade more later, I'm actually saying that they were right, because at that time I was saying, why don't we fight the corruption? Why are we putting subsidy on luxury when we have, as of the time that subsidy was removed, I was a transporter. One of the businesses I was doing at that time was transportation. I had trailers that were going from Lagos to the north, and I was buying diesel. Diesel wasn't subsidized. It still isn't subsidized. And I was like, why are you not subsidizing what is used to run the economy? We're subsidizing what is used for luxury. But today we're seeing wastage. We're seeing unprecedented looting. Today we're seeing all sorts of things going on with by those that are supposed to be government in place while the people are suffering. And that is not the way to go at all. People are really suffering. They are dying at this moment.
Yeah. Hearing you talk about, how long you've been doing business and, trade, going from here to Dubai, and of course the dollar exchange rate, almost make you sound like one of those that the CBN governor was referring to, and the APC government is referring to, that is making the exchange rates continue to skyrocket because you continue to create too much, dependency and demand for the dollar. They've also mentioned, and I'm going to share, that it's opposition parties that are instigating mass protests to undermine the government. If you remember the Minna protests, and I think also in Kano, of people protesting against the government because of poverty and hunger. But the APC government says that it is the opposition parties that are instigating these protests to undermine the government. And I think I saw Felix Mock, I believe yesterday, say that it was unpatriotic also to be a part of these protests. So I want your quick thoughts when statements like that are made. Is it unpatriotic?
Okay, so I will start with the issue of my going to Dubai for business. First of all, when I went to Dubai, I used my private money, my hard-earned money. We put our monies together, and I used that to go to Dubai to go and do business. It's not that when the CBN governor is talking, the CBN governor should know about Nigeria that took over 1,000 delegates to go for climate change summit in Dubai, using public funds and paying people in forex. That's where we're wasting our monies. When the CBN governor was talking, did he talk about the fact that at this moment there are countries, I think Argentina is also one of those countries that said they're no longer going to be going on these trips out of the country. There's also an African country, I've forgotten that one right now, that said because of the economy in the country is putting a stop at it. But right now, we have a lot of our government officials, public officials, going abroad to use our dollars to go abroad and do all of that. When he's talking about forex, Nigeria currently is wasting money on what do you call it now? Refineries. Refineries. People are being paid in NNPC for doing nothing. Refineries. People are being paid. We have refineries all over the country where people are being paid. They are not doing anything, and yet we are going on to go and import fuel. We import petrol into this country. Dangote has a refinery. We've heard that now he's going to be buying crude oil from out of the country. That is where the dollars are going to it. So it's not an Aisha Isufu that was going to Dubai 2 years ago. There was something also that the CBN governor said. He made mention of the fact that education and medical tourism have really affected, and I totally agree with him in that aspect. But the thing that he forgot to mention is the fact that the Nigerian government has failed to provide good quality education where citizens will be able to have access to good quality education here in Nigeria. So the issue, the hypocrisy where they send their children abroad and they expect that our own children should stay and get, how do I put it now, not as good quality education, so that the way that they have enslaved us, their own children will enslave our children. It's not going to happen. My children don't school here. And I will talk about one. My son is dyslexic. Dyslexia is a learning disability. In Nigeria, in 2013, we had to make the very difficult decision, myself and my husband, to send him abroad. Why did we send him abroad? Because Nigeria did not have the capacity to be able to take care of educational needs. And so we had to send him abroad. That kind of a child, you want me to leave him in Nigeria so that he will not be able to be useful to himself or to the society? That's not going to happen. So instead of blaming other people, let them blame themselves. On the issue of protest that is going on, I know I laughed and I wondered when it was written by the APC, from the APC National Secretariat. And I wonder when they were doing protests in 2012, 2014, and all of, 2014, 2015, were they instigating, or when protests were going on, were they the ones instigating? And by the way, protest is a constitutional right. The opposition parties do not need to go through anyone to go and do protest. They can sit down on their own, wake up in the morning. If they decide that every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, they're going to be on the Nigerian streets protesting, they have a constitutional right to do that. And the suffering that we have today, nobody needs to tell anybody because everybody is feeling it. This is not a protest of empathy. This is not a protest of some people are being killed or something is happening, let's protest on their behalf. No, this is a protest of survival. It is the people who are feeling the pain that are coming out to protest. And I tell you something, nobody is going to tell anybody to come out. Nobody is going to do placards. Nobody is going to do t-shirts. People will feel the pains on their own and they will come out on their own to protest. So they better begin to think about what they're going to do. Excuses are like shoes. You always find the one that fits and stop the excuses.
Well, you've said the government needs to stop the excuses and then needs to, of course, get to work. The president has been away for, a few days, and he just got back yesterday. A lot of people are saying that it wasn't right for him to have traveled, especially when the country is going through a lot. And he hasn't even spoken to Nigerians, especially regarding the protests, the killings. But of course, one or two things are being put in place, especially with those who are close to the president. My question to you is this. With the current situation Nigeria finds itself, if you were the president, what are the things that you think should be done and should be put in place now?
So first of all, nobody reeks to give anybody good governance. Nobody reeks to feel the pain of the people. Nobody who has empathy is going to reek. If I was the president today, the first thing I'll tell you that the process that would have brought me in as the president would be extremely transparent. It would be a process that would be excellent. I will not in any way try to undermine the electoral process, try to rig election. I will let the result be. If I win, I win. If I don't win, I don't win. Having said that, the next thing also is, first of all, the first thing that I would have done is to speak to the people and let the people know exactly what is the current state of the economy as it is. The second thing, of course, is to ensure that I'm always listening, I'm always there. Third, crude oil theft has to be stopped. I would have stopped crude oil theft. Those that are stealing, anyone that is part of it, taken out of it in the way that they are retrenched. If I have a chief of naval staff that investigation has been implicated that it's been reported that is part of a 170 million bribe scandal, he's not going to still be the naval chief. is going to be replaced. If we're able to stop that crude oil, that would be something. Every leakage, corruption leakages around, all of this is whereby people are sharing billions of naira. You find out that they call it, they call it consultancy fee. Somebody is getting 700 million naira as consultancy fee to verify social register. That definitely is not going to happen under an Aisha Yesufu presidency. We are not going to have that. So lock up all of these things and begin to fight the insecurity. Go after the terrorists. Nothing like lip services, nothing like excuses. Every of our military, equip our military, ensure our military that they're getting the right allowances they are supposed to get. Their lives are insured. They know Nigeria have their back. They know, God forbid, if anything happens to them, we're going to take care of their family. They're going to put their all in defending Nigeria. They're going to be patriotic, because if we're able to take care of that terrorism, we're going to open up the economy to a very good extent. Right now, people can't go on the farm. I've been selling chicken feed since 2002. 2002. So this year will be my 22nd year of selling chicken feed. And I can tell you, I see now, when I was crying, people were insulting me. Now the Poultry Association of Nigeria is actually crying and said that 50% of their members have closed down their shops. So, and we don't have maize. We import maize into Nigeria. We import wheat. Make sure that the insecurity is taken care of. People are able to go to the farms and farm, put in a lot into agri. These are basic things. They are not rocket science. And most importantly, empathize with Nigerians. Show the people that you got their back, you care, not just about you alone having siren and going on private visits and all of that. And most importantly, I would not be going anywhere for any medical care. I will stop any foreign trip or whatever. We need to sit down and fix our economy and ensure that we have a country that works for us, that is on the path of working. Like I said earlier, and most importantly, it's not to put corrupt. I will never put corrupt people around my government. People who are part of corruption in one way or the other will not be there. What we will have will be people with competence, character, capacity, people who are patriotic, people who have courage, people who are going to put Nigeria first, and for us to begin to move Nigeria. And in my presidency, I'm not going to work for me to be praised today, for some psychophants to be praising me. I'm going to work in such a way that 100 years from after I'm dead, there are people that will look back and say, thank God that Nigeria had a president called Aisha Yesufu.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you're running, well, as of today, you're not running for office. But
no, I'm not.
Maybe sometime in the future. Okay,
as of today, I'm not running for office because I love my time. I love my freedom. I love to wake up when I want to wake up, do what I want to do. That's why I've never worked for anyone. I've always done my own business. And so if I get to that place where I want to be accountable to the people, then I will run. Then when I do that, I will serve, because it is about service. It's not about going there to enjoy myself. If I want to enjoy myself, I should do it out of this. But one thing that I'm very categorical about, and I'm going to repeat it again now, Aisha Yesufu, by the grace of God, will never, ever work in anybody and take any appointment, whether be it minister or those SS, whatever they call it. No. The one that I can manage in serving the people will be an elected office, even if it's councillor. And if the people say, Aisha, we don't want you to be our councillor, I'll pack my bags and continue. I've always said this thing, I'm going to repeat it here. We need people with second jobs in politics. What we've done in Nigeria is that we've left politics for people who don't have any job other than politics. And when they get there for them, it is a do or die affair, because they don't have anything out of politics. And it is from politics that we get people that are going to govern us. So we staying out of politics have been very foolish, and we all need to be part of it. And you don't need to run for office for you to be part of politics.
Yeah. I mean, probably a good time to, also ask, because I've seen that you did mention that Nigeria currently doesn't have a president, doesn't have, a government. What would you say to those who, are asking that you maybe give the government a little more time? I mean, it's only been in office for a couple of months. It's not like it's a magic wand that is going to, move and then things will get better or things will look better. So would you give the government a little more time? Give them a year, give them 2 years or something.
So you asked me earlier, there was a question you asked me earlier, and we sort of like reflect to this, which is to say, what will you do now if you were president. And I think I reeled out a couple of things for you. There are a couple of things that don't need time. You understand?
Yeah.
It's just like you saying we shouldn't have had this interview. Let's give each other more time. Would anybody be seeing this interview? Nobody would see it. So excuses, remember what I said, excuses are like shoes, you understand? Or me coming here, I'm not saying anything, I'm telling you that give me more time. And then you say that, oh, Aisha, oh, she did a brilliant interview because, you know, she needs more time. There's nothing like that. It's about, first of all, doing the needful. When I say, first of all, for me, this government is illegitimate, and I have my reasons, and I've made our reasons categorically clear in case of how did you come into election. As far as I'm concerned, civilian coup and military coup, they are the same, and the world should see that as the same. Having said that also is that when you now force yourself on the people and you're not doing anything, there's nothing like give full time. Are you going to give time to the people who have been killed? A father and his 6 daughters were abducted, and guess what? One was killed because he couldn't pay ransom. The one that was killed, we've had reports that her results from school came out. She made a first class. Does she have time? No, she doesn't. A 13-year-old was killed because her parents couldn't pay ransom. We have 50-something people that have been, they were on their way to a wedding with the bride and everything, a wedding entourage. They were abducted. Some of the videos have started coming out. Are we talking about time? The people are dying. Are we talking about time? Here we have. But when it comes to corruption, why is it that all the monies that have been looted, we saw what happened. Even the Minister of Interior is also indicted in it. His own company got about 700 and something million naira to do, verification of a register, consultancy fee. But what time are you looking? Why didn't they give themselves time to not do all of those things? He comes out today to tell us that, oh, he's not a director. According to the law, he removed himself as a director, but he's still the highest shareholder. I'm a business person. Removing yourself as signatory and as director doesn't mean anything. The company still belongs to you and your wife. And you got over 700 million naira consultancy fee over register. How many people were given were the jobs made public? You had about 3 billion naira that was shared with less than 10 people, shared all of these things. Did they take time to do that? When they were going to Dubai with over 1,000 entourage, did they take time not to spend public funds? Why is it that when public funds is being wasted, no time is taken? But when it comes to giving good governance to the people, then we begin to talk about time. People are dying. And they don't have time anymore. You and I can have time because we can afford 3 square meters. But I can tell you, there are a lot of people who can't afford 3 square meters. We should be thinking about them, not about ourselves.
All right. I mean, due to time, we'd like to carry on this conversation. But let me just drop one last question for you. My question to you simply is, kidnapping seems to be the order of the day. We've seen what's going on as well in terms of the cost of living. A bag of rice going for 70,000 naira and the likes. Do you foresee a way out of this, especially with the plans being put in place by the current administration? Do you foresee a way out of it?
Well, I don't know of any plans being put in place according to whatever this illegitimate government that we have, but definitely there's always a way out of it. The reason why the kidnappings have increased is because, one, we have given enabling environment for the government to continue, for Nigerian government to continue to abdicate its responsibilities. And of course, this illegitimate one came in and continued with the abdication of responsibility. We've also given enabling environment for the perpetrators, the terrorists, the kidnappers to continue to be more emboldened and come after us. I remember some years ago, the terrorists even dared that they were going to kidnap a sitting president who was a former general, and yet the whole Nigerian security agencies, military, and everything were not deployed to go after them. So if they can threaten a sitting president and nothing will be done. I remember when Kankara boys were abducted, and it was the same day that the then president had gone into Katsina, and it's some 100 of kilometers away from his village. And for me, and I kept shouting, I said, for the fact that a whole Nigerian president, the commander-in-chief, the CNC, was going back to his village, these people were not scared of aborting that mission, means means that they do not have any respect for our security agencies and our military. And they abducted those children. They worked with them for days. And, you know, at the end of the day, we weren't the ones that were actually able to rescue them. So we've given them enough room for them to be more emboldened every day. But if you ask me that, is there a way out? Absolutely, yes. Nigeria has the capacity to do that. Our military, for me, I believe in our military. I believe in the men and women that we have. The leadership might not be what it's supposed to be, but they are there. They are yearning to go after these people. But we've heard reports from them. We saw reports whereby it was said that our soldiers are being fed once a day. How are you feeding somebody once a day and you expect him to be able to fight for you? How are you not taking care of somebody's need? We saw a video recently. I don't know how true that video is. I haven't seen the military come and debunk it, where a soldier was given permission pass to go to visit his family. He got to the motor park and he couldn't afford to travel to his own home because the petrol has increased. He had been in Borno for he said, I think about 3 years. So he didn't know that there was this increase in transportation. And he said he was going back because he couldn't afford it. And I just sat down to imagine, how come is it that the military aren't giving them money that we take them, or even have the transportation system to take them back to their families and take them back home. So yes, we have it, but the political will is what we do not have. And the question we should all be asking, who is benefiting from all of this terrorism? Who is benefiting from all of this kidnapping? Who is it a conduit pipe for some people? Is it opportunity for some people to make money? Is it only the terrorists and the good? Is there connivance somewhere between security agencies, political class, you know, some citizens, whatever it is? We need to settle that puzzle, because if we put our minds to it as Nigerians, as a nation that we are, we can take care of this problem. It's not bigger than us. But hey, we've not done anything. And right now, I've been asking for several years, who is taking care of our forests? We are being encircled, and nothing seems to be done about it. All that some people seem to care about is looting and how they can get more money.
Oh, very interesting, and we'll say thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's all in the bid to see a better Nigeria, and we, of course, welcome your thoughts always. Thank you very much for your time once again, and we wish you a very beautiful day ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. Well done.
All right. So, a lot.
Yeah, we continue conversations here this morning. Of course, President Muhammadu Buhari has returned, but we will discuss some of all of that after this break as Breakfast Central continues. Welcome back. The father of the nation, as he is popularly called, President Bola Tinubu, has returned to Nigeria after a 2-week private visit to France. The president, who arrived in Abuja, the nation's capital, last night, was received by members of his cabinet, to include Femi Gbajabiamila, his chief of staff, George Akume, the Secretary General of the Federation, Nuhu Ribadu, the National Security Advisor, and Nyesom Wike, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory.
Well, recall that the presidential spokesperson, Nigerian Gelali, had announced Tinubu's visit to France on January 24 without citing a reason. The president's absence has been met with criticism from opposition groups and other concerned parties, with former Vice President Atiku Abubakar accusing Tinubu of fiddling with Nigeria in the face of worsening economic and, of course, insecurity. Anyway, there you have the image there on the screen. The president being welcomed by members of his cabinet. And like many said, it's finally good to have the president back after 2 weeks, and hopefully work can continue as usual. Now, on the other side, many have said, well, let's cut the president some slack. Anyone who takes charge of the affairs of a country, such as Nigeria, will definitely need intermittent breaks once in a while so he can recoup, think appropriately, and of course come back and attack the situations on ground. So there's that level of trying to understand that truly the president needs some time off to cool off. After all, people say if you work in a company where there's so much work to be done, you might need 2 or 3 days off to relax, cool off, and then come back into it again. I don't know what your thoughts are concerning that, but that's the situation that we also get from many persons who have talked about it.
As much as I'm a proponent of I promote free speech, anybody who said that to me would should be ready to fight. Mostly because The president has only been, president for a couple of months. I don't know that, we want to break. So is he going to be taking breaks every 6 months, or every 4 months, every 3 months? Is there any time he feels stressed, he's going to travel abroad for breaks? And also, going, on these breaks, to rest. Why can't he do it in Lagos? Why can't he do it in Ibadan? There's many places in Nigeria to go for a rest. So they've not been honest with why the president traveled. That's the fact. Prince Charles, or King Charles rather, of course, just announced that he has cancer.
He has cancer.
The president has not been honest with the reason that he traveled. I mean, it might be health reasons, it might be other reasons, but you cannot just jet out of Nigeria at your own convenience any time that you feel like, especially when the country is currently dealing with what it's dealing with. It makes absolutely no sense. And also, Nuri Badu was with him in France. If you remember the video when Nigeria played, they were together in France. So how is the same Nuri Badu now standing at the, in the airport to welcome him? What is George Akume doing there? What is Nyesom Wike doing there? What is this thing that we are doing with our country where we seem to idolize the president and make him seem like God? Because that's the way that Nigerian politics has been played for so long. And these don't seem like people who truly are interested in doing anything better for the country. I mean, imagine the amount of the logistics that it would take to get all these persons from their homes or from their offices to the airport just to welcome him. Okay, so what happens next? When they welcome him, do they drive back with him to Aso Rock? Or do they all disperse to their various homes, and everybody continues the next morning? I don't know. I don't know what we're doing.
And we're back. Breakfast Central time for the front pages of the papers. That's where we're going to next. And don't forget that you can be part of this by calling the phone number on the screen. Wherever you are, I want to say a big thank you to all our callers. Since we opened up the phone lines, we truly appreciate your calls. And for those who did send the feedback that they kept trying to call, but their calls weren't picked, we sincerely apologize. But then again, we're saying you can start calling in and call in early. All right? There you have the number on the screen. We have joining us public affairs analyst Olusegun Okwade. Thank you so much for being here as well.
Yeah, good morning and great to be here on this Wednesday morning. Very cold one.
Let's kick off with this Nigerian newspapers this morning, see what we can find. As interesting as possible the stories are. It says federal government convenes emergency meeting over protests on high food prices. Says no shortage in Nigeria. Tinubu directs committee to take immediate action to arrest situation. APC, opposition parties bicker over alleged sponsorship parties, protests rather. If you remember, the APC put out a statement saying that it's opposition parties that are sponsoring protests. Of course, one of the APC's supporters also, or spokespersons also said that it was unpatriotic to protest hunger. In 10 years, Nigerians spent $40 billion on education and healthcare abroad, says CBN Governor Cardoso. Wike flags off resurfacing of 189 roads in FCT, promises the economy will turn around, and then 500,000 workers to lose jobs over ban on alcoholic drinks in sachets. Health experts orders laud NAFDAC's prohibition. All right, Mr. Kwade, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think what interests me most is the current government saying that the sponsor of the protest in Minna was by opposition party. Can we leave this attitude? It's just an appeal to them. And the response shows that they are disconnected from the people because, truth be told, they don't have the feelings that an average citizen is feeling. And I have this to say that before now we used to have the elites, the high-class people, the middle class, and those that are below the trend. As we are, there are two categories. There is no middle class any longer. Because if you look at the cost of things, right from January to now, there are practical things. Is it food you want to talk about? Is it materials that you want to talk about? Everything keeps increasing. And this is not far-fetched. Everything that we are consuming, food, materials, are being imported. What do you use to pay for the importation of the good? Is dollars. You met dollar at the rate of 600, 700. Now it's over 1,500. And you keep that things will be the same thing. And looking at the response to say we have food sufficiency, and you are acting that you are calling an emergency, people that people should swing into action. I think what the president should be saying this morning is that the people that are in charge should be fired. We are not. I feel we are not serious with the way we handle issues. So if we have enough food and some people are intentionally acting to frustrate your government and the emergency meeting is to ask them to swing into action, then I think it's an intentional act on the part of the government to impoverish with the citizen. I was in Ibadan over the weekend, and the fear I'm having now is for the elites. I was just at the filling station buying fuel, and one man came to buy 1,000 fuel for his commercial bus. And he said, look at this, these are the elites that are putting us into suffering. All because I bought fuel of 10,000 naira. And I'm like, if care is not taken, they will start picking up on individuals that they feel that can even fuel their vehicle out there, or they have good, clean vehicle, forgetting that you are passing the same thing they are doing. Because they will consider that before you can even afford that, that means you must be part of the government that is putting the problem there. So I imagine if the man was so hard and he decided to eat me unexpectedly, he only said the word. So what becomes of us? And we are saying that we have food sufficiency. See, all we need is to convert the emergency meeting for people to swing into action. I personally, my personal view, disappointed. You cannot move in the street as we speak currently without people begging for money. Yeah. You cannot. Even corporate people, people have lost their job. It's in the public domain, the exit of multinationals. People working there, what are they currently doing? So for me, there is a disconnect. And we can see completely that those are the aim of. I listened to the CBN governor yesterday. All the rhetorics he gave are things that we know. People will continue to travel, that they've spent $40 billion. It's because those things that are meant to be operational here are not there. Our leaders are not leading by example. He said so much was spent on health tourism. Is it you and I that traveled? I've not gone out to do any, I don't even go out. I go to general hospital or private hospital within the country here if I'm ill. But as we speak, how many people can afford that? Majority of the people that have this tourism, I'm talking about, that's why we said the people at the end of affair knows the problem, they shy away from it, and decide to impoverish the citizen. I listen to everything he has said is the normal thing. People are traveling and they will continue to travel. They've been traveling before they get back to us because we heard about people that are read out there. People will consider, even make everything comfortable here in this country, they will still want to travel. Some country, go to the Asian country, they send their people out to go and galvanize things and have access to what they feel they cannot have access to within their own country. So it's not an excuse that you've spent $40 billion on traveling and all. What are the things that you are using to enhance and attract foreign direct investment?
I think it's an attitude, that was developed with the previous APC government where they never take accountability for anything. They just, even from the presidency to the ministers to whoever, everybody just finds somebody to blame. Yeah,
it's a blame game. It's a blame game that everybody wants to try really to put on the table there. But that's not where we are now. It's really, people will tell you, Sheson, you used to speak well of this administration. I say, yes. But the issue there is biting out. We've asked the question, what is responsible for the fuel scarcity that we're experiencing in Lagos? How can we be buying at 600? And at the same time, we have to add a long queue to buy the fuel, wasting productive time on the road. What exactly is working? We've asked that question. We need a direction. I was expecting the governor, the CBN governor, the minister to say, okay, these are the cogent things. We have savings. We all celebrated the issue of subsidy is gone. We all celebrated it. And we heard that within the last 6 months, we've saved a lot. About 8 trillion.
So where is
what are we using the fund for? What specifics do we have to say, this money, this is where we have invested it? And that's why I'm saying that those that are managing the information for the presidency or whosoever are there are not communicating. So that means that money has actually been saved somewhere for them to pump in. We are hearing about palliative to be shared again. We've said it, we don't need palliative.
Communication is easier when you're being honest and when you feel like you're accountable.
I think I'll buttress that point like that.
Let's just remind everyone the phones are available if you want to be a part of the conversation. Share your thoughts with us on any of the stories that we're sharing from the newspapers this morning. You could also tweet at News Central TV and join us. Let's move to the Daily Trust newspapers next.
Let's go straight to the Daily Trust. Let's take a look at the big story there on the screen. House of Reps wants action to end hunger. Ask federal government import grains, drugs, and others. Lasting solution coming according to Cardoso. Tame corruption, wasteful spending, nothing else they say. Tame corruption and wasteful spending. That's Presidential Food Committee meets. That's exactly what we've seen. And on the picture there, you see the helicopter. Anyway, it's all about the events that took place yesterday, of course. But then again, let's not dwell on that. Let's dwell on the issues as we speak. Dad accused of defiling 8-month-old daughter remanded. That's later on. Excessive taxation on telcos counterproductive. NCC. I beg your pardon. The dad accused of defiling an 8-month-old daughter is a very key story, but we're going to discuss that later on. That's what I meant. Well, let's look at this pressing issue now. The federal government has said that they should go ahead and import grains, drugs, others. Activist Aisha Yusufu just joined us, and she talked about the importation of maize that is still ongoing now. This importation, are you not still going to use foreign exchange to carry them out?
Maybe at this point they've agreed to now spend naira. Because when you see, first and foremost, the House Committee, the House of Rep, is affirming that there is hunger in the land. At least for the first time, I can see that one part of the government is alluding to the fact that what the government, the federal government said, the current party said that the protest is being sponsored. At least we have the other arm of the government telling us now that, no, we are aware that there is hunger in the land, trying to provide solution to it. Why must we always go the route of importing everything that we need to consume when we are blessed with everything? The grain you're talking about is because of the level of insecurity that we have in the land, that farmers have decided to invade the farmland. We are blessed with the land. I remember my last visit to Israel. These are sandy areas where they do irrigation to get their crops and their things are up there. But we have a land that drop a grain somewhere, go back home and come back. You see that thing germinating. I say, how did this thing start? It's just the one that fell off from the ones that you picked. How are we not maximizing? And the next thing for us to do, and when you ask, they will tell you that it's a short-term thing. What is what is actually the plan? Because for me, fantastic policies, when you ask us as a country, the problem is always implementation. And it goes to that aspect to say corruption is every step that you need to take. Somebody is out there waiting. What is in it for me? Yep. That is just it. What is in it for me? And that is the problem. A lot of people, we've heard during the last administration, some of the sponsors of the insurgent said they have about 400 lists. Up till now, we've not seen one person. We've always been hearing this person has misappropriated our funds, and all we hear is allegation, and we keep impunging into poverty day by day. We've heard suspect of kidnapping activity being carried out. All we hear is suspect. And you discover that because people are not being punished, other people now go into you and say, no, now you always know how to buy your way once you have the money. And that is the major problem. We have lost our value proposition. So if the House of Rep is calling for importation of grain, when we are blessed with the land that can grow it, when we are blessed, you know what China capitalized on? Population. Yeah. We have the population. We have the intellects. The intellectual of our citizen is top notch. Why is it that you see them average Nigerian out there, excelling in all that they do? I keep saying it that our leaders are not sensitive to our plight. So if House of Rep is saying that we should go and import grain, maybe they should tell us, are we going to pay with naira
or dollar?
So if it's still the same dollar that is scarce, is what you are putting more pressure on. Because what we are saying is that give room for more, production locally, whether we believe in it or not, at least we will still consume it. Are you aware that we now import soup? We import bread. We import gari that you go to Ijebu, have the yellow type. Import all those things.
And those are the things that should be called like for emergency action on. instead of suggesting that we import. You know, I don't know why the House of Representatives would even mention that we should go import again.
When the lands are out there for us to cultivate,
it's saddening.
we should address the issue of insecurity. Because nobody will want to risk their life to go to the farm and able to produce what they can consume.
Yeah, let's speak with Mr. Yakubu, who's calling from Gwagwalada. Good morning, sir. Okay,
hello, Mr. Yakubu, are you there?
Okay, I think he would reach back to us. Remember, the phone lines are active. You could join the conversation. If you have thoughts on some of the things that we're speaking about this morning, it's mostly about Nigeria's economic challenges, the response from the presidency, and of course from the House of Representatives and everyone else. On the Punch this morning, while of course we take your calls, the Punch says, Tinubu returns, orders emergency meeting on food crisis. Naira weakens at official market, banks sell $584 million. Nigerians spent $89 billion on foreign trips and education in 10 years, says the CBN. CBN says it can't stabilize exchange rates alone, put annual food imports at $15 billion. Senate summons Cardoso, grills CBN governor on Friday over forex crisis and economic challenges. Customs seized 854 million naira vehicles and others in January. And also federal government vows to end insecurity as Nigerian Air Force unveils attack helicopters. Killer kidnappers free slain Kwara monarch's wife, and 13 of them, of course, nabbed. I think we could quickly speak on the return of Mr. President. I had the argument yesterday that, you know, it almost feels like we are on autopilot because President's absence doesn't really change much, you know. And when he returns to Nigeria, it's not like there's anything new, you know, you can sense with the attitude towards governance. You know, him being in France on holiday or him being in Aso Rock is not really different.
Well, let's say welcome back, Mr. President, from your private visits. People like us, who people have tagged to be one of your fans, is actually disappointed because part of the things you mentioned to us is that you are out to make sure that you alleviate the issue. And how can my president, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, be out? We don't know whether he's on vacation, whether he's on anything. All we hear is private. But our president is not supposed to have a private life any longer. He's our father. Your dad cannot leave the house without either telling the mother or telling you, either the first son, second son, to say, my children, this is where I'm going in case of anything. But with the children, we the followers do not know the whereabouts. We just know that our father is in France, and while he was there, he enjoyed the Nigeria-Angola match, which we saw very well. So we need to understand that the president is responsible to all of us, and we need the movement. Now that he's back, we want to see the difference, at least to prove you wrong that whether he's away or not. I think we need to have a cogent action. Calling emergency meeting for this issue of salvaging us with the food crisis is not what we need. People that are not doing things right should be fired. Governance should not be an atmosphere where individuals enrich themselves and everybody look up to say the only place where you can make money currently is by working for the government. Working for the government should be the last resort. An average business owner these days are no longer surviving. Cost of operation is on the high side. I'm sure you know that the cost of diesel as we speak is about 1,200. And we've had incessant grid collapse. So when the grid collapse, what do you use? I feel for people, stations like this that run 24/7. Because how many hours of power supply do you have? You run on diesel. A lot cannot even avoid solar stuff to carry some of your equipment because the cost is not out there. So we want a situation where the government will look into some of, you cannot grow the economy and be having continuous power supply failure. You need constant power. Do you know the number of artisans that are out there not doing anything? That's where you get the creativity from.
Yes, a lot of idle minds, just looking around.
And those are the people that venture into criminality because you just have to survive. I was watching a video, somebody said it's a skit. I said, as far as I'm concerned, it's not a skit. Where a guy was at the market to buy a pound of rice, and they said it's 2,200. And the guy said, I have 1,800. Right. This is not what we used to have.
Hold that thought. We have a call from Adamawa, I believe. Good morning. Mr. Tom, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me around this time.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I most of the time wonder, where did we get it wrong from our journey to nation building, to nation as a country? One would say we started well from inception, from amalgamation. Yes, one would say we started well. So all of a sudden, at every stage of our journey to our growth, we kept on draining. We are now having ourselves in a kind of a country where everything is not working. You can just see the papers today, like what the gentleman is saying this morning. If you go to countries like Israel, all desert countries, even our neighbors here in Niger, do you know that they started farming better than Nigeria, where you can count off, you can spread or journey kilometers of hundreds in Niger, nothing you can see as a plan. But in our country today, you find out that there is no any single state that we don't have something tangible and special, unique that we can export. Where did we get it wrong? And of course, we can say it's the fault of our leaders. What is our country today that food, Gary, that when we were young, somebody will tell you that I won't take Gary because it's for a poor man. But today, Gary is for, in fact, in other words, they call it, to say it, Tinubu rice. Why is it so? So I think, gentlemen, we have to come to a level to tell ourselves the truth in this nation that our leaders have failed us over the years. I'm not talking about whether past or present, but generally I would tell you that our leaders have failed us. And the senators are all blabbering, or maybe Nigeria should begin thinking of exporting or importing food. I think something is wrong with our mental psyche. Something is wrong with their thinking. We have to bring the whole world.
Thank you, Mr. Garba. Thank you for calling. I'm sure we got his summation there. Said, where did we get it wrong? I think that's a Which Way Nigeria monologue as well.
You know, something amazed me. I saw a post that during a Yar'Adua administration, that dollar was 150 to a naira. A bag of rice was 6,000.
6,000 naira.
A bag of cement was about 700, less than 1,000 naira. And I can affirm it because I know during the administration I was out of the country on a trip, and I remember that my flight was less than $500,000 to US then. But you try to go to US as we speak, I'm sure you know what the cost looks like. You need to sell the old property that you've worked for several years. And there's an area, somebody drew my attention to it yesterday. And the area is, they are deducting our pension. By the time you retire, the value of that pension you are holding is 100% eroded.
May not be able to provide you, offer you a medical
because at that time you are of age. So there are some certain ailments that you might be battling with or facing. So imagine if you have, in the next 2 years, as we speak, 50 million in the last 2 years. It's not the 50 million when you have to offer yourself. So government should be intentional about getting the right thing. As we speak, they will say, if you cannot even improve on what you made, can you just leave us where we are? If we are still at 700, I think people will be happy that things are in a better, but going down the drain is really not what we welcome.
All right. Good morning, Rex from Ibadan.
Good morning.
Morning, welcome. Go ahead.
All right. I'm watching your program and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But what I notice is we want to blame others. We should look at the mirror. Every Nigerian is guilty. Let us don't beat about the bush about this fact. If you go to church, we all act pure, with chastity. But once we come out of church, we return to the madness. People start to act as if we have lost it. Our leaders are not from Mars. They are not from Jupiter. They come from within our society, sir. We must look at this thing holistically.
We have got the leaders that we deserve. I don't know what the solution is, if I'm honest with you. But part of it is this craze for wealth. We chase wealth, we don't ask questions, we don't do things as if, and we pray too much. The other day, a prominent general overseer was saying we should pray that the dollar should fall. These things don't happen.
All right.
We don't value hard work. All these values, they have been present ever since, sir. From 1960 till now.
Rex, I think we get your point. Thank you very much for sharing. It's that's a conversation that has created arguments for as long as possible. Do we deserve the leaders that we get? And all of that. But there's no time for it this morning. He says every Nigerian is to blame. People might argue otherwise. Mr. Kwande, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We enjoy your perspectives always.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. We just want to encourage the citizen, at least, like they said, to brace up and always try to check on one another.
Yeah.
The environment is not smiling, but a call to someone who is close to you can actually alleviate. Although people are scared that when you put the call through, the next thing might be, shall I send you my account details?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's scary. I don't know how touchy this may sound, but I just thought to drop this here before we go on a break. Yesterday I was at the supermarket and I was about buying something. And this lady came in front of me. She was about getting the sanitary pad. And they told her it was a difference of 50 naira. And she heaved a sigh and was about walking away. Apart from calling to say, don't worry, I'll take care of the bill, it hit deep in me that because of 50 naira difference, it was 650. Said she has only 600. And the lady at the counter said, sorry, there's nothing I can do. The supervisor was watching. I knew the lady wanted to do something, but she said, I can't do anything. Anyway, let's go on the break. That's the level, that's where we are currently. After the break, we'll be talking to someone who is indeed versed with the oil and gas sector. Something is going on there. After 10 years, Nigeria has not met its quota. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now, investigations by Daily Trust newspaper have shown that despite having crude oil in abundance, Nigeria has consistently failed to meet oil production targets as stipulated in national budgets over the last 10 years. Experts have projected that non-oil exports should be the nation's primary concern due to the volatility in the oil sector, which, of course, Nigeria is susceptible to.
Well, let's also tell you that data obtained by Daily Trust newspapers showed that the country has failed to meet its oil production targets by an average of 300,000 to 600,000 barrels per day, recorded shortfalls from 2013 to 2023. A breakdown of the data showed that in 2013, Nigeria produced between 2.1 million and 2.2 million barrels of crude oil. Now, recall that in 2015, the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, signed the budget with a projection of 2.27 million barrels per day and a crude oil price of $65. However, Nigeria's oil production averaged 1.9 million barrels per day in 2015, represented a shortfall of over 300,000 barrels per day. Now, joining us this morning as we take a look at this very closely, to look at the entire situation is energy and gas infrastructure expert all the way from Lagos here, Tosin Thompson joins us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much and good morning.
All right, good morning. Let's start off first with this current situation. In the past 10 years, right from when the former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, had signed, and looking at the production, Nigeria has not been able to meet up. What does this mean for the oil and gas sector, most importantly, for Nigeria and, of course, the sector?
So I think we could start on why we haven't been able to meet up. Oil theft, bunkering, it's a major issue in the regions where we produce oil. Also, if you look at it, we have a lot of infrastructure issues as well that cause this shortfall. In this time when, the dollar and building up our dollar reserves is important, it is paramount that oil, being a major export commodity, is meeting the OPEC capacity. But, and I'm talking quick wins, But even with that, because of bunkering, because of some sort of red tape that is along the process, Nigeria just can't meet the capacity, the supply capacity that is needed.
Well, pretty interesting, but I think another thing that I should, maybe ask, in continuation for the same question is, is it really rocket science to end oil theft and oil bunkering and some of the things that you've mentioned as the reason we've not been able to? If you remember, I think it was, who was it? I think during the elections, Peter Obi had gone to the Labour Party candidate. Not sure where he went to now, but there was some conversation about, that was for electricity. But just, is it that difficult to put an end to the theft of Nigeria's crude oil? If we've tried this for the last 10 years, for example, why is it so hard for us to end it?
So, I mean, you can look at this through multiple facets. First of all, you have to engage the communities where the oil is produced from. They have to have a sense of ownership. Also, they have to know and think that Nigeria is doing right by them. Because, to be honest, they are the front lines of the infrastructure that goes through their communities. And if they do not believe or have ownership and they don't feel part of the process, obviously the best or the worst or the easiest thing to do is look away while other people come and steal and pillage the national commodity. So I think you're right, it's not rocket science, but there has to be a lot of community engagement. I mean, you go to all these communities, their other source of livelihoods have been washed away by oil waste. You look at fishery is gone, the climate over there's nothing to write home about. So community engagement should be number one. Bring the community there, say you care about them, pump some money into them, give them jobs with all the money that we're making from oil. Once we solve that, of course, in fairness, the government and past governments have been working diligently with the Army and Navy in putting up a presence over there in those communities. That should continue. But these things cost money.
These are some of the things that the NDDC was set up to do.
Exactly right. But there's a long way to go with that. Because if you still go to all these communities, some of the things that I mentioned, I mean, they're just blatantly clear. Environmental impact of oil production is very telling. And what we should do as a country is to rally, behind those communities and, at least put money in to open up more sources of livelihood for them so they'll be engaged. Continue with the security process where the Nigerian Army and Nigerian Navy and Air Force are properly funded, which the government has been doing, but increase the funding so that they'll be patrolling those communities as well. See, the bottom line is this, and you alluded to this is not rocket science, right? Let's protect our infrastructure, lower oil theft and bunkering, and increase our capacity. In a day and age where a lot of countries are fighting OPEC to increase the daily capacity, Nigeria is actually the other way around. We can't even meet the 2 million that they've spoken about and they've set it as. And this is a day and age where we need hard currency, we need dollars. So the quick wins to solve the issues in Nigeria, to be honest, is to increase capacity.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the gas industry as well. Currently, the average Nigerian is indeed worried about the cost of cooking gas, how it's indeed, going higher and higher in terms of costs and so on. And many have wondered, is there anything that can be done to ensure that gas is equally put at a particular rate so that both those who are undergoing this suffering, these challenges, will be able to afford it? And what's the hope concerning this thought that it could actually be made affordable?
Gas, I'll start by answering the latter part of your question. I'd say yes, gas can be affordable. I might make a little controversial statement here by saying I'm 100% against putting up any cap on gas. I believe in market forces. When market forces are run right, there are efficiencies in distribution on the supply process. Prices come down, savings are met. Don't forget that gas is an abundant resource in Nigeria. Matter of fact, our supply on tap reserves and proven reserves way higher than our current demand, right? We are not even at our demand capacity as Nigeria. So this is not an issue of whether Nigeria has gas or not. Matter of fact, we flare gas in the process of producing or pulling out oil, right? And I know this because Mesovest is, which is my company, right in the distribution chain, right? So the first solution for our gas problem, actually, let me talk about the issues first. What's bringing us here? There are the obvious reasons. Number one is the depreciation of the naira against the dollar. Unfortunately, Nigeria imports over 50% of the gas supply, LPG supply, currently, and the balance is locally produced. On top of that, obviously, you know that gas and oil are priced in the dollar. I mean, any global commodity is priced in the dollar. So any depreciation against the dollar would definitely drive the price up locally. Now, the quick or medium-term win, what must happen is, number one, import substitution. And that's where the government should encourage local production of gas. We have the supply on ground. Just put up production facilities to pull them out. We flare gas. Something Mesovest and I am very interested in is a process of capturing the flared gas and processing it into CNG, dry gas, and LPG. Yeah. So once we do that, that reduces the importation of gas, which is over 50%, and that's what I call the import substitution of gas. That's number one. Number two is that it's important that gas is not priced in locally produced gas for local demand is not priced in dollars. There's no reason for that, to be honest. I mean, in the past, with gas LPG almost being the stepchild and gas being flared, and when it was oil and there were all of multinationals, producing and exploring oil, just to protect and hedge their risk, there was a case for pricing, and I didn't believe in that, but there was a case for pricing locally produced oil in dollars, right? But right now, you produce it locally. Nigerian companies are taking production on hand. Nigerians are there on the fields, involved in the production process, and Nigerians are buying it for local consumption. Yeah. So why is it priced in dollars, right?
Well, Mr. Thompson.
So, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think we get the point, but of course, that has to come first of all with being able to improve on our local production of gas. You've mentioned, how all the gas that is being flared and just burnt into the atmosphere, a lot of that could serve Nigeria good. And there's some things that just don't make any sense. How we've not been able to get these things done over the last 20, 30 years. But I want to, in the interest of time, I want you to also quickly speak on something that Nigerians are bothered about, the news that Dangote Refinery is going to be importing, from the United States. How heartbreaking, should this be for the average Nigerian that expected that the Dangote Refinery was going to be, the one that would change the game with regards the petroleum industry here in Nigeria, and we're going to somehow, some way, maybe to get, lower price petrol. Is the NNPC also one of the most disappointing factors in this whole conversation of importing fuel from the U.S.?
So, I mean, Dangote is a company I respect deeply. I laud that company to get into a massive investment like gas refinery and oil refinery infrastructure. Obviously, Nigeria will yield benefits from it. And in private organizations, things happen that slow the production process. I do not know all the details internally. Unfortunately, these things happen in private organizations, right? But as a country, I think the number one mistake is a country is dependent on, one private organization for the shortfall in our refined needs. Don't forget that Nigeria has spent a lot of monies in key refineries. We have the Port Harcourt refinery, we have the Kaduna refinery there that are not fully operational, right? So to put this all on Dangote, I don't think is fair as a country. I believe in the market. I believe in competition. So I believe that, and I know that the NNPC is pushing funds to revive the Port Harcourt refinery, and hopefully in a couple of months that will be operational as well. And the same should be done to the Kaduna refinery as well, right? So I cannot speak to the operational and strategic decisions on Dangote. I know that, with all the monies that has been spent and Nigeria also been involved in funding that initiative, that the push is to, yes, start refining for Nigeria. But we cannot just depend on that. And again, this is what we need to stop doing as a country. Let's pull an aggregated supply of healthy competition in our sectors so that we have options. We're not just all looking for just one country to be the holy grail and the savior of all our gas needs. We have refineries that are existing, right? Get Port Harcourt refinery back to life, Kaduna refinery back to life. Let them have the refining capacity. Kaduna refinery actually has the infrastructure for LPG as well, not just oil. We have the tools to solve our issues with distribution of oil to the last mile. That's to us Nigerians on ground that need it. We just have to revamp the infrastructure and get them running again. Yeah, I know it's easier. Right.
Anyway, this conversation is one that we would love to continue, but I want to say thank you so much for joining us, Tosin Thompson. Thank you.
Thank you.
What a way to bring the show to a close from the start, where we talked about the incidences happening in the Air Force, the aviation sector, and then, of course, Aisha Yusufu joining us on that tough conversation concerning Nigeria's economy, and then we brought it down to the papers. Did I miss anything else?
No, not at all. And of course, welcome back, Mr. President. We hope that, of course, you remember that it's, again, like I said, it's time to be president. And, if he needs to be reminded, please remind him. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll be back here again tomorrow morning. I am Osaugie Ogbonwan.
And I am Joe Hansen. Until tomorrow morning, stay true to yourself and please help anyone in need if you can.